Hello and welcome back, everyone. In today's video, I will be focusing on lighting, mostly basic lighting, and I will cover dome lights, area lights, gobo filters, volume scattering, mesh lights, photometric lights, and if I have time left, some portal lights, which is a new feature in Arnold. Um, if you haven't done so, on the solid angle page for M2A, under the tutorial section, you find actually quite good tutorials already how to set up flash photography, for instance, or what are IES lighting profiles, how you can get them, interior lighting, studio lighting. There's lots of information. If you haven't done so, I would really encourage you guys to look at that to get a better idea what's available and what's not. It's very detailed and very good information. Also, Solid Angle provides learning scenes, which you can find in the learning section on the tutorials. And they've got interior scenes, some outdoor ones, and I will be using a few of these just to make my life easier and to show you better how it looks in kind of a production environment. So heading directly to Maya, I just imported this robot model. I've got no lights in the scene, and I will start from scratch. So the first thing I want to do is kick off IPR, Arnold Render View, which is actually I'm using now 1.41, which was released a few days back, so it's pretty recent. Lots of bug fixes in that. And as you can see, I have my alpha channel, but I don't see any lights. So the first thing I'd like to do is just create area lights, which is like a planar surface to generate some nice soft shadows. To do so, you go to Arnold Lights, Area Lights, and the first thing you should keep in mind is work in real space, real size, I mean. So there is no light which is really tiny. So area lights are mostly soft boxes, which are to scale. If you check proper photo shoot setups, how they use them, and I would encourage you to use the same size. It's just to make everything in the same environment. So let's just put change the settings, the scale. We've got now 20 centimeters in X. Let's just say it's, I don't know, 50 and 1 meter high. Let's just put this. I'm not sure, Z does not matter, but this is now the scale of a big softbox, 1 meter high, 50 centimeters wide. And you can see that my object is pretty tiny compared to the light. So if this object is maybe 10 centimeters high, it's a pretty big softbox. But it will produce really soft shadows on this. Depends if you want harder shadows, you need to make a light smaller. So the smaller the light, the sharper your shadows. I will show you what I mean by that. So as you can see, you see not really much. So one thing which Arnold does, it normalizes the lights and it sets them to a default value. So if you disable this, the light is scaling corresponding to the scale of the light. So if I make the light smaller, the intensity goes down, which is what you would expect. And if I make it bigger, it gets brighter. So let's just keep it at this. And you can see the shadows here on the bottom are really soft. So if I make the light now smaller, you can see the shadows get sharper and sharper and sharper, but the intensity decreases. So to compensate for that, you can either increase the exposure, let's say by 10, and you can see the effect. So now we get actually quite hard shadows by and a pretty nice light intensity. But this is not what an area light is supposed to do. It's supposed to give you softer shadows and definitely in studio environments. So if you want to have hard shadows, you either create a skylight or you have a really good HDR, which is pretty has a high sun values. So let's move this somewhere here. This is my first softbox and intensity is too high. So this is now, let's say, the first light I want to place. Let's just change resolution to get a bit more speed out of this, 50%. And this is now the current light. So I like to always to have some rim lights in the scene. So what I always like to do is I like to move my lights until I get what I want, the desired effect. So something like this is all right. So you get the side lit thing, and I want something from the right side as well. So to do so, I just duplicate the light with Control D, and I move the new light source over, rotate it. This is now almost front lit, and I don't know, something maybe like this. Let's put them a bit higher. This is not all due to preference, what you want to do, and I don't know. They're properly there are probably nice books about photo lighting setups and tutorials online. So you have the option to change the color temperature, which is a Kelvin value. So the bigger the value, the more blue it gets, and the lower, the more orange it gets. So around, I think, 2000 or something is getting around candlelight temperatures. And you can look up physically values for neon lights or neon bulbs. I think 5, 6 is one for outdoor. No, or maybe indoor. I'm not sure. You can look it up. It's all physically valued, so you can just enter the Kelvin amount and you get the proper result. So let's just make the right light a bit more orange and the left one more bluish, just to get some color differences in here. So currently I don't have really any shaders applied. It's just an simple AL surface shader or AI standard, doesn't matter. To keep in mind, if you work with low AA samples, currently I'm working with 311, which means it's really low and we get some noise in these diffuse areas. So the first thing you want to do is, if you work with low AA samples, you need to increase your light samples on the shape node. So I'll try values around 3. Sometimes even 2 is enough. And it should already be a bit cleaner, especially in the shadow areas here at the bottom, which are now almost clean. So to get rid of this noise, it's mostly diffuse noise. So you can check your passes, indirect diffuse, and you can see it's pretty noisy. And all the indirects are controlled by these guys. So if I want to make this cleaner, just increase the diffuse, indirect, um, and now you can see it's clean or getting cleaner quite quickly. But I like to, just for efficiency, reduce all the values a bit so we get a faster feedback for you guys. So going back to the beauty. So this is now just a basic concept on area lights. Each area light has light filters, and you can add light blockers or a light decay. A light blocker is a transform node, which can be a box, a sphere, plane. Let's just create a box, make it bigger, and everything what is inside this box will be blocked. So currently nothing happens because I have no density. So if you increase the density, for this one light, it is being blocked by the box. So if I move this now in the middle of this, you can actually see what's happening. So everything outside this box is being lit by the left light. And you can also use a plane, which is more like a caster, or it will actually do ray casting and properly block everything behind it. So now if I move this up, you can see that if I move it in the view of the light, it's blocking and blocking even more, which is helpful if you want to control your specs or different areas of your image. They have some values to soften the edges and everything like that, but I would encourage you to read the docs. It's better documented there. So let's just delete it again. So this is the basic type for area light. So let's hide them. And now I want to go to dome lights, which is like these two lights are the most important ones, which I always use, is area and sky dome lights. So sky dome lights is a ambient light. If you just use the default settings, it's white light in all directions. What you can do, you can connect the texture here, or you can create a ramp, for instance, if you want to have a I don't know, something really basic. Let's just make rainbow and update full scene. And this is now what we're getting. If I would create a sphere quickly and move this, because it's not blocked, I need to put it in my robot. There we go. And if I would add a chrome shader, like so, then you would see what's happening. Ah, let's just run a perspective for now. So this is currently what my sky dome looks like. Not sure why the rams are not being, why it's not properly being translated. I would expect to see the ramp in here. Yeah, never mind. Not sure why it's not working. Something MtoA needs to look at. So what I tend to use is plug in an AI image or a file node. Not It doesn't really matter. I just use out of preference AI images, uh, and I connect an HDR. Let's go to HDRs in my library, Studio Lights, and let's choose which one? Let's just choose this one. I already have a TX file for that. They are automatically generated. So let's just save quickly. And so I'm trying to go a bit faster through everything because I've got a lot to cover, and it's mostly all basics, and it's nothing too fancy I'm trying to show. It's just a general workflow I'm using. Um, and now with the area light and with the sky dome light, I will connect. I did connect the TX file, and let's render it. Let's see what we get. Right. So this is now only lit by the texture in the area in the sky dome light. So currently it looks like it's a bit flat lit. But I think it is correct. Let's just create another sphere, which I just deleted, and move it also into the robot and make it bigger. And let's just see if I actually have something on here. Yeah, so this is my studio environment. It's pretty gray, but it is reflecting everything as expected. So if you want to see the HDR in the background, what you got to do is, because the Skydome Light does not support this on default, what you have to do is go to your render globals and go to environment and background and create a sky shader. And in the sky shader, you plug in the same map you plugged into the AI Skydome, which is in my case AI image, I guess 1, if I can find it in my node list. Let's see where it is. There it is. So that's the image node. So I will just middle mouse drag it over into color. And what is important is that the render stats, it should not cast shadows, it should not be primary, it should only be primary visibility, and it should not be visible in diffuse or glossy, because that is what the Skydome light does. It is outputting those ray types. So also I don't like to see it in the viewport. If you want to actually see it in the viewport, you need to use EXR or EXR TX files. But mostly I don't really care about that, so I just change the sky radius size just to hide it from the viewport. So IPR again. And play. So now you can actually see the HDR in the background. So if I would rotate my view, you can see what's going on. That's the HDR, which is currently reflecting onto the chrome ball. So as I said earlier, the robot does not have any shaders. So let's just quickly create a chrome shader, make it rougher, like this. Maybe that's a bit too much. And do some anisotropy maybe. And these ones I want it to be black, so just do something like this. So now you can actually see what's happening. You can see, so you get some nice reflections and some nice speck hits everywhere. So this is now the first things I wanted to show you on the basic scene. And the next thing is a spotlight, which is a different kind of light. So let's hide that as well, the sky dome, and create Arnold lights. My spotlight, which is the same as if you would create it from create lights. It's the same thing. So the benefit of spotlights is you can actually add gobo maps. Gobo maps are it comes from the set term gobo, which is like a foliage thing they used to put in front of lights to create interesting shadow patterns and stuff. And on the MtoA side, pretty sure they have something about gobos as well. and you can see what it's doing. So it just creates a nice pattern of stuff, whatever. You can do whatever. You have lots of flexibility on that. So to do this, I first want to start the render, and then I want to go to Arnold and disable normalize and increase the exposure to 10 maybe as well. So now you can see what's happening. Getting the light, I will change the cone angle a bit to make it more narrow. Move it. I'm just checking on the feed here just to see what we get. Let's go to perspective and scale this a bit bigger. All right. So this is now only lit by the spotlight. So all the options work. You can have your penumbra angles, you can have your drop offs, and everything works as expected. You also have samples, light radius, and at the bottom you can add filters. So you've got barn door and gobo, which are new. The barn door is like just some flaps in front of the light where you can control um, the edges from where you can block stuff from certain angles. Top left, bottom left. See what you can do. It's just adding some blockers in front of the light. But I don't really wanted to show you that. Let's just disconnect that and add the gobo filter. It wants to get a slide map, so a select slide map will just be similar as a light blocker, and the density is the same thing. So density on 1 will block all the light. So if you plug in a texture in here, ideally it's some leaf pattern, or I just use a checker now, and this is now what it looks like. It's nothing too special. You would think that it is shaded or just lighting black light. But if you enable volume scattering, which is like dust particles in the environment, you can see what's actually happening. So volume scattering always also needs density and a really soft density, and you can directly see what's happening. So you can see those nice streaks coming from the light. Yeah, and I think if you want to control it better, or if you want to play, or if you want to play with these values, you can get really some nice, interesting results just by adding some gobo filters, and it just gives the image a bit, just a bit more depth or something. So these are the two things. And the next thing is a mesh light. A mesh light I showed in a previous tutorial is just a geometry which emits light. So if you have let's say we create a cylinder and we scale it down like so. We move this into the robot and something like this, and let's hide the spotlight. So now again it should just be black, which it is. Alpha is there, image is black. So on the shape node of any geometry on the Arnold tab, you have the option to change this to be a mesh light. And then you can also disable normalize, and you can increase the exposure. And this is now, because of the volume scattering, it looks a bit very foggy. So let's just disable this for now, the volume scattering. You can either disconnect it or just change the density. I'll just like to disconnect it. So now this is only lit by the cylinder light. So you can make it visible with the checkbox so you can see it, what actually is doing the mission. And then let's just check the robot. And then you can, I don't know, just move it. You can actually see what's happening. You can position it. Yeah, that is about mesh lights. And the last thing is a photometric light, which is a physically light curve generated, or like a measured light. That's, I think, the better word for that. Lights, photometric light. On default, nothing is connected to it because it needs an IES file. So I have a library for IES files. You can Google, you can go to Osram, you can go to the Arnold page. Let's just go back, I think one, yeah, and then you have IES lighting in the tutorial section. And if you actually click on, where is it? On Visual 3D, if you go to this website, you can actually choose for lights. So let's say we want Gotham architectural lighting, cylinder lights. You have some light profiles like so. You can directly click on the IS thingy and you can actually download it directly. You can select it, get some more info, how the light is looking like, and then IES, download that and use this in your render. I already have a few lights in here, so I'm not sure which one I should now take. Let's just take number 16. And to make this also visible, I will reconnect these atmosphere. So let's see, Arnold IPR, play. They changed the feature now, so on default it's not rendering, so you always need to click the start or play button. Right, so normalize off and exposure on, and let's zoom out. So this is now my light profile. If I go down, you can actually see that it's giving way more detail compared to a typical Arnold or Maya spotlight. So bringing them both next to each other. No, can't I snap this? Apparently not. Anyways, let's just position this here. Rotate down. Let's increase exposure. Exposure. All right, there we go. Let's say 10. You can see the difference already. It's like there's no detail, there's no drop off, there's really not much going on in the spotlight compared to the IS profile. And you get its measured values and it just gives your lights more life and it looks just way better. And the last thing I want to talk about is portal lights. Portal lights is also a new feature. And what they do is they direct all the light from the skydome light through that portal, which means for interior scenes, this will dramatically clean up your renders. So let's just do a quick example. If I create a cube, which is now my room, and I snap this and I extrude like so, this is now the window. I delete that and make this more like so. There's the robot, delete the sphere. And if I create the Arnold light now, the portal, light portal, and I snap this here, make this bigger, and rotate this, and let's enable wireframe, make this a bit smaller, something like this. This is now the portal light, and currently I don't have any dome lights, so I just create a new one, lights, sky dome light, and let's look through here and see what we got. So if I hit IPR now with the portal light enabled, this is currently what it looks like. If I increase the intensity of the light, exposure, like so, you would say, oh, but that's not really clean. But if I store this now and I hide the portal, not sure if you need to delete it or hide it. Okay, I deleted it now. So even if it's hidden, it still works. So this is now without the portal light, just all the information from the dome light going through that little box window. And look at this. I did not change anything else. It's really just amazing what the portal light does. And you can see it's really amazing what they can do. So for interior scenes, I would highly encourage you guys to use portal lights for your windows. Like for scenes like, where is it? Scenes like these where you have these windows and you need to clean up your interior renders. Wasn't there another one? Lighting? Lighting a room? Yeah, stuff like that. It really will help if you use portal lights. Right, this was now the basic stuff which I wanted to show you, and let's just go to a bit more, I wouldn't say advanced, but a more interesting scene. So in the render setup, I have a few scenes prepared. So let's go to the scan, and let's move to the Gary cam and disable wireframe. So this is a high-res scan I got from the internet on, not sure which site it was. Never mind, it's not important now. So if I start the render now, um, let's just see Arnold IPR. Takes a bit longer to translate. Clear A, clear B. So this is now the current render. We go to Gary. So this is now what it looks like. No lights in the scene. So let's create, what area light is this? That's the studio light. So let's just unhide the studio light and play. Do I need to retranslate? Possibly. Let's just retranslate. There we go. Right, so this is now the Gary guy with a basic, really basic studio light. What I like to do for characters is actually use area lights. And I will show you why. Because the mesh is really high, high poly. It takes a while to do everything. Anyways, so let's just create a new light, lights, area light, and make it bigger. The head is about 30 centimeters high from chin to forehead. This is the area light. I want to use like a softbox, and I want to position it, I don't know, somewhere here, and increase, disable normalize. There we go. Oh, we already have scattering still on, so let's just break this, disconnect. So basic lighting again. So I'm just now checking the area lights, how I want to have the reflection on it. So I like to have something like this, make it a bit longer, a bit higher. This just gives us this nice detailed rim light. So changing the color to be something more on the blue side, increasing the exposure a little bit. This is now what we get. And let's just create another light. Arnold lights, area light number 2. And this will be the detail fill light from the front, which is, and well, in studio setups, it's sometimes a ring light. We can actually do a ring light as well, which will be a mesh light in this instance. So let's create a torus, make this bigger, and change some settings on the torus. Section radius smaller. I'm not entirely sure how big these ring lights are in real life. Maybe as big as the head or something. Something like this. So move this here. And it's also, I think, mostly coming directly from the camera view, or it's stripped on top of the camera. So if I convert this now to be a mesh light under Arnold, types mesh, disable normalize, you can already see what's going on. Maybe it's a bit too big. I'm not sure what the size should be, never mind. Right, this is now my mesh light. Do I need to update? I don't know why this doesn't work. Sometimes it's my UI is being weird. So let's go to 4.5. So Kelvin does work, it's just Maya being weird again. So you can't slide it. You need to change the values in the channel editor. And I also want to get some highlights maybe here on this top head. So let's do that as well. So create a light, area light, and move this here. Come on. Whoa. I thought it crashed there for a second. Anyways, all good still. And let's make this from the top a bit bigger. Up, normalize off, or if you can leave normalize on and then just increase the intensity a bit more, like so. And let's move it here. Let's just try something. You can also use isolate selected on lights. So if I select this light now, you can actually just see the information this light gives me. So it's a really nifty and handy feature. So let's move it somewhere here. And now this is the only contributing from the mesh light, and this is only from the rim light. And if you go to shaded mode again, you can see the results. Come on. Basic. What is lighting? Lighting is new. Oh, I think it's just a basic Lambert shader now applied. That's nice. Shading. Let's just retranslate. Right, there was a little issue translating it. So this is now what my lighting looks like, and I think if it is quite nice. And if you want now a stronger front light, you can just increase the exposure of the ring light to something like this, and you can see it's working pretty cool. And if I change the perspective camera and go even closer, you can see the nice detail on the Gary character. So let's just zoom in a bit more. And you can see what we get. So it works pretty nice. And if you now would apply proper shaders to this, you can get a quick result, a quick good looking result very fast. So this is this is how I would create some basic lighting for a simple character, I guess. And the last thing I want to show you is my alien scene, which is also provided on the MtoA list. I just changed some things a bit. So he's, instead of having this lance with this pointy end like so, I just added a sphere, which will be a mesh light, just to give it make it a bit more interesting. So just enabling the mesh light and exposure to 5, not 56. Normalize off. And this one is already textured. So let's just see how the lights work. The same lights now are used on the scan. So Arnold render view and play, and changing the camera to be alien camera. So okay, let's for now just hide the other lights. These guys hide. So now we just have this nice mesh light emitting light. If I change my resolution to be 100 and we press O for original size, you can see what's going on, and it's really working really nice. We get a bit of fireflies because the geo is intersecting, and Arnold does not like that, or it will just create really high values directly on the edge. So I just offset it now a tiny bit. And let's actually see if we can get volumetrics to work as well. Boom, there we go. So fog is a bit too much. So you can just change the density to be a bit smaller. Something like this. Still a bit strong. You can then change the color as well, just to control it a bit better. Let's go back to F for frame all. Right, so this is now the scene, which is really basic for now. And let's create another area light and move it on his right side. But this one, I know it's not, this time not physically accurate anymore, because I will disable effect volumetrics for that, so we don't get a glowing left side like this. I will create disable effect volumetrics, so it only is now doing disable indirect, so we don't get indirect bounces. All right, so now our little alien is looking like something. So this is now with volumetrics applied. So we have the light from the left, volumetrics only for the mesh light. Now we can make them actually a bit stronger. If you go to render globals, volume scattering, and make this a bit stronger, and you can see that we get this nice glow effect around this. It's now on 4, 0, 4. Yeah, this is now all a bit preference, what you want to do, how foggy you want to have this. Let's just render this for a few minutes. Disable progressive refinement, so we just get the final buckets, and let's just increase this to 5 and diffuse to 2. This is now clean. What does okay, and if you want to make the volumes a bit cleaner, in the volume scattering node you have samples, so if I put them to 10, let's see if they get actually cleaner. Yeah, they work. So 20. Alright, this is now getting clean enough for this. Changing the bucket size to be 64 for efficiency's sake. Right, and this should actually be everything about my basic lighting tutorial. We covered photometric lights, mesh lights, volume scattering, gobo filters, area lights, and dome lights. So it's now all the basics about lighting is explained how to set it up in Arnold, and now it's up to you to make beautiful images with that, make a bit more advanced lighting setups, more lights, more mesh lights. And important thing to know is that area lights are the most efficient one. They deliver the most clean results. If you use in the area lights, you can change the disc lights. They are immediately more noisier than the area lights. And I think the most efficient ones are point lights. They deliver really clean results, but you hardly use point lights because they are not physically that accurate. Mostly you use area lights because they are the most interesting to use and give you the best results. What else? Yeah, dome lights. Also, it's very important to know that it highly depends on the quality of the dome light. So if you have, I know, a really bad sun values or light values which are clamped at a certain value, you won't get these nice sharp shadows which you would expect. So it is important that you have proper unclipped HDR maps to deliver the most realistic results. So thank you guys for watching, and if you have any questions, please add to the comments. I always read the comments. Sometimes I don't reply to everything because I just think that it is mostly self-explanatory what the question is about, or maybe other people can help me if they know it, just answer the questions on YouTube comments. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you did learn some basics, maybe some new tricks on my workflow. And I will share this tutorial on my website as well, so you can find it easy. Thank you guys again. Enjoy the rest of the day. Arvid, bye.